Robert Plank Show, episode 272. Grow your web design business or digital agency and get that consistent stream of new leads with Joe Kashurba. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the show. Our guest today is Joe Kashurba, and he grew the freelance web design business that he started in high school into a digital agency with a virtual team and clients around the world. Joe went from building $300 websites to building $30,000 websites and managing six-figure digital advertising budgets for some of the largest manufacturing and construction companies. And Joe now advises and mentors other freelance web designers and digital agency owners on how to develop and scale their business. So Joe, welcome to the show. And did I get your last name right?
Yes, you did, Joe Kashurba. Hey, how's it going, Robert?
It's going super fantastic. And so you make websites, you coach other people to make websites, and you have all these construction manufacturing clients. But having said all that, what makes you kind of stand out in your field there?
Yeah, I think probably a couple biggest things in terms of the web design, that business. The biggest thing really is that focus on some of these industrial and manufacturing clients that I think a lot of people don't focus on. And then on the other side of things, where we're helping freelancers and agency owners grow their web design businesses and get more clients. I think what we're really taking a different approach to that. There's a lot of resources online for how to pick up a freelance client here, an agency client here, and we're really helping those kinds of businesses put systems in place to get lots of clients on a consistent basis, rather than just trying to do some extra grinding to try to pick up a client here or there.
Awesome, and I like how you said that you're focusing on the manufacturing types of businesses, because like I had never thought of that, and like what little I hear about like this whole thing of contact all of the businesses in town, contact all of the the Italian restaurants, contact all of the the Mexican restaurants, stuff like that. And I know that at least in my city, there's this whole other side of town with all of the the factories and the warehouses and stuff. And I'm looking through your portfolio, and you've done websites for like a machine company, for example. Like I never would have thought of that, or like a excavator, or like a farm. So that's pretty cool that you've kind of gone after this, what seems to be like a untapped resource, it sounds like.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And what sometimes people don't think of is there are the industries or the sort of businesses that are flashy, and people think of startups and things that are really cool. But there's a lot of businesses that make a lot of money and have a lot of resources that are in some of these maybe less flashy or less cool fields. And the other thing that's interesting is if you're working with some industrial companies or manufacturing companies or some of these other, services, like you mentioned, the excavating, what you need to do to get them results in terms of digital marketing and in terms of their website is stuff that's in a lot of cases very simple compared to an industry that's everybody in that industry is doing digital marketing and has a great website, and they need the advanced stuff to get any results. But you can take some of the stuff that's pretty simple and help them get amazing results.
Awesome. And so what I'm hearing from that is it's kind of like when I think about like you said, the flashy businesses where there's I guess the consumers would come in. It sounds like that's like a lot of work on their part, super competitive, lots of like low dollar things. But then with this, like the excavator or these other kind of more industrial companies, they deal with less people. They have higher dollar kind of ticket sales and things like that. And so you said in there that like there are things where like you don't have to do all the usual tricks. You don't have to do like tons of crazy things. Just some of the simple things work. So like, what kind of things like that are you talking about as far as like what kind of things you're making in these websites?
Well, yeah. So just as an example, say you were somebody trying to sell a $7 ebook or some sort of a course online for $7 or something, and maybe you would need Facebook ads and a webinar and 10 zillion Infusionsoft funnels and all this stuff to try to get it to work. If you're an industrial company that's selling some chemical process or service, or a machine shop or something like that, you can do a simple AdWords campaign with a simple landing page and maybe not even have any sort of a lead magnet or anything, and it can be extremely profitable because of the high dollar nature of the services that are being offered, and just from the standpoint that all of your competitors aren't even at that level of sophistication yet.
Awesome. So it's like it's less work for everybody, right? It's like less work for those buyers of that businesses that you're working to bring in for them. It's less things for that business owner to know about, and then for you, it's like it sounds like you can just stick to some of those fundamentals, and like when you're making these websites, just really kind of focus on making things simple, as opposed to, like you said, making a crazy funnel or Facebook ads or webinar, just setting up some simple stuff.
Exactly. It's sort of one of those. One is it the one-eyed man is the king of the island with the blind, or something like that.
In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king.
Yeah, it's exactly like that.
Awesome. And so, I mean, what's your thought process when you're making this kind of stuff? Like, I mean, like, do clients come to you, or do you ever like have to go out and find some new clients? And then when you find them, like, what's kind of what kind of questions do you ask? What kind of things do you look at and think about?
Well, yeah, that's actually a good question. One thing I'm a very big believer in is that any business needs to have a strategy to go out and get leads and get clients and everything. I see so many freelancers and business owners that sort of have this idea that, clients are going to come to them, or it's, somehow they're going to magically grow their business. And they forget that they really need to sort of take responsibility for going out and getting clients. And, so we've done everything from simply reaching out directly to people via email or sending them something in the mail, like a direct mail piece, to doing a lot of AdWords ourselves to get web design clients. But one of my rules in business is that you always have something happening every single day in the business to get more business. Again, whether that's an ad campaign running on AdWords or Facebook, or whether that's actually going out and sending out cold email or sending out direct mail. You're always doing something to go out and get clients. And then as far as what I do when I actually start meeting with a web design client, one of these industrial companies, the big thing that I try to do is I really try to understand what they want and what they need and what's going on their end. And what a lot of web designers will do is they'll go in and they'll try to talk about all the cool stuff they can do and all the cool WordPress plugins and everything. And the business owner, if somebody owns a $10 million, industrial company, doesn't care about all that. They just have their specific problems or their specific things that they need, which might be that they want more, request for proposal for this, this service that they're offering. And we go in and we talk about that. And we really talk about the website and the services that we're offering very little. We talk about what they want, and then we offer to help them with that.
Awesome. Keeps it nice and simple, right? As opposed to confusing them with technical stuff. It's just what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. So when they tell you what they want, I mean, what's kind of the next step? Like, do you have like a questionnaire, or how do you kind of translate from what you and them both have in your head separately? How do you translate that into an actual like mock-up or a web page or something?
Well, yeah. So in that sort of initial consultation, what I'm doing is I'm going through and continuing to identify different things that they want and different needs that they have. So I'll ask them, why they wanted to get together in the first place. And then we'll keep asking questions. And usually somebody will say something like, oh, I think we could do a better job on the website. Some real surface level kind of answer. So then I keep digging until we get clear that, they're not getting enough requests for proposal, for instance. And then I'll just say, okay, so we definitely want to get more requests for proposal. We want to build a website that's going to convert and, get you more emails and calls and people that are going to be requesting proposals. But then what else? And so I'll look at other things that other problems that they might have or needs that they need fulfilled. So we might identify that they have, we've worked with a lot of companies that just had different forms and documents and things like that they wanted their employees to be able to access. And so a simple sort of password-protected members area where their employees can get that kind of information is something that they want. And so I just go through and keep sort of putting together a list of all the different things that they want. And at the end, I say, well, we can definitely help you with that. And, here's how we would build the website. Here's how that would work. And, go from there.
Awesome. And what I really like about that thought process you have there is that it sounds like like you said, you keep digging. You don't just say, "Oh, here's a website. Don't you need a website? Here's my template." It sounds like you listen a lot to a lot of like their difficulties and their frustrations. And I really like that part there about how they might even have something that you hadn't even considered, like that kind of members area. So, I mean, is that sort of on the right track? I mean, it sounds like it's not really like much of a one size fits all. Like you always kind of listen a lot to what they have to say, and then you kind of come back with a package that's based around those problems.
Well, yeah, I mean, what you described about identifying those different things is exactly right. And what's interesting is oftentimes the potential client doesn't even really know what they want. I often say that the one of the main things that we're trying to do in a consultation is to provide them with clarity about what they want. So frequently they'll answer that initial answer of we think we might be able to do a better website or something like that is actually what they were thinking, and they didn't even connect it back to that they wanted more leads or requests for proposal, or so they end up with a better vision of what they want. So that's a piece of it. It's providing them with clarity. And so they might have met with some other web designers or thought about going in some other direction. And all those other web designers talked about WordPress plugins or talked about SEO and XML sitemaps and stuff. And our conversation is the only conversation where we ended up talking about requests for proposal and leads and what's actually going on in their business.
Awesome. So talking about the marketing stuff, not the geeky technical stuff.
Yeah, because they don't care about. I mean, they don't care about any of that. They don't know what any of it means. They don't care about any of that. They know about their business and what's going on with their business.
Right. They just want to get it done. And so, do you know off the top of your head, or do you even care about like the like your ratios and stuff like that? Like, do you happen to know, like, if you get a certain amount of leads from AdWords and stuff like that? Do you know like how many you can get on consultations, or do you know like if you get some consultations, do you know like how many of those will end up being actual clients, or is that just like all over the place, or it doesn't matter?
Well, so the first thing is that I'm big on what I call consistent deal flow, which is basically that you have a constant stream of new leads coming in, a constant stream of people you're talking to, constant proposals being sent, and sort of this kind of thing, so that if somebody's not a good fit, you can choose not to work with them. You can charge premium prices because you don't have to be afraid that somebody's not going to be able to afford your fee or something, because you have this sort of constant deal flow going on. So when we're generating leads with AdWords, for instance, there's a lot of people that might email in or they'll call or something, and maybe we'll talk for 5 minutes and say, that's really not, that's not an ideal fit for us, and maybe I'll send them to somebody else or something like that. When I actually get somebody that I meet with in person for a website, or whether I meet with them in person or I do a serious consultation on the phone, about 50% of those end up closing, some right away and then sometimes a little bit down the line.
Awesome. And so, and do you think that the reason why this closing ratio is so high, is so awesome, is because of this whole getting their needs as opposed to everyone else who's being technical? Is that the reason why it's so high, or is it because you have a script, or like why do you think that closing ratio is so good?
It's two things. It's that piece, it's that sales piece, and making sure that conversation is about what they want and what they need, and actually offering them a solution. And then the other piece is having a lead generation process that gets you the right people. Oftentimes in our marketing, we'll actually list our starting price for websites, or we'll do that kind of thing. So that they go through the lead generation process and that they're a good fit once they're on the phone with us.
Awesome. I like that. So it's like you're like disqualifying some of the people by having those things, like showing the price. That way you make sure that you're spending the time on the people you should be spending time with. That's awesome. And so once you you have that consultation, what's sort of the next step? Like, what do you come back to them with after that?
Well, yeah. So on the consultation, it sort of varies. Some people will be ready to go right away. I mean, I've walked into a meeting with a industrial company or an excavating company or a construction company and left with a check. That happens frequently. But sometimes we'll also put together a proposal for them, and because sometimes they have business partners, they have a board that has to look at something or something like that. So sometimes it's a proposal, and sometimes it's we're ready to get started right away. But we don't spend a whole lot of time writing proposals. We actually have sort of templated proposals that sort of just list out. It's more of an agreement than it is anything else. The selling happens in that consultation and not in the proposal.
Awesome. So you have that sort of that template. If you need that the proposal to kind of have everyone on the same page, and then after that, sort of what happens there? Like as far as the like, do you keep that client like up to date in the process, or do you then like have some sort of a system to pass it along to your team, or like what happens after you get that check, the proposal signed, or whatever? Like then what's the next step there?
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so we now have project managers that manage the projects and sort of help the client gather up all their content and everything like that. So what I'll typically do is once their check comes in and their signed agreement comes in or their signed proposal, if they got a proposal, I'll send out a welcome email, and that welcome email basically says, thank you for deciding to work with us, and introduces them to the project manager that's going to work with them on the project. And then that project manager, I'll have a conversation with that project manager about what's going on with the project. And then the project manager ends up reaching out to them in a day or two about what information we still need from them, what questions we have, and that kind of thing. And the design process, the design phase of the project gets started from there.
Awesome. So then, so that the that whole project kind of gets rolling, and then I assume that at a certain point, there's kind of like showing it to the client, and maybe like some kind of back and forth to get things just right.
Yeah, so our process is typically, we're building on WordPress, but we're still custom designing in Photoshop. So we show them that design in Photoshop and get their approval on that design in Photoshop, and then we work with them to get all the content and photos and functionality and everything figured out. And then we do the development phase where we actually build it out in WordPress. And so they're reviewing it at that design phase, and then they're working on content and everything, and then they're reviewing the site again once everything's built out and it's sort of the final review.
Awesome. And does that usually go like pretty smoothly, pretty painless, or is there's like sometimes a client that just like always wants things changed?
That's always in anything design related. That's one of the sort of big problems is people that want to have a lot of a lot of changes and this and that. And what I found is the best ways to combat that are one, to just realize that just like any other business, you have a process and people have to go through that process. If you're at a restaurant, you can't and you get your food, and you can't just say, what, I decided instead of the steak, I want the lobster, and just send it back. That's just not how it works, right? And what a lot of web designers will do is they'll feel like they have to comply with any possible thing that somebody requests, even if it's, somebody adds on a bunch of features and stuff, and they don't want to charge them anymore. You really just have to get firm about, this is our process, this is what we charge, this is how it works, and, sort of let people understand that they have to follow that process.
Awesome, fair enough. And then sort of along those lines, I mean, did you in the past make like certain mistakes, or do you see a lot of mistakes being made over and over as far as this kind of relationship goes, as far as like these offline businesses and then the designers who want to make websites? Do you ever see like the same mistakes happening over and over in your industry?
Oh yeah, and it's all of that comes back down to people don't have the way to get leads. So many web designers and freelancers are relying on word of mouth or referrals to get as the only way to get any business. And so when that happens, then they have to because they only get one referral a month or a couple referrals a month, they have to comply with whatever that person wants because that's their only opportunity to make money that month. And so it's all related to that. If you can fix that piece where you start getting enough leads, then you can be more selective about who you work with and you can increase your price. And then, if somebody doesn't like your process and something doesn't work out and, halfway through a project, you say, hey, this doesn't look like it's a good fit. It's okay because you have more leads coming in. And that's the whole, all of these problems that web designers and freelancers have sort of start with that lead generation piece where they're sort of beholden to those few precious referrals that they get every once in a while.
Awesome. That's really good advice to keep getting those new leads and keep looking at what else is out there. That way your business is growing and not just kind of hanging on. And you mentioned that as far as your agency getting leads, you use email and you use direct mail and you use AdWords. And so, I mean, what's usually your strategy with that? Like, do you choose a town and then choose an industry and then go down the list of those businesses, or what's kind of your thought process as far as getting those leads?
Well, yeah. For AdWords, for the web design business, AdWords, we're still doing a lot of sort of local and semi-local, just because I really enjoy meeting with people in person, and that's something that I'm very good at. Some people like that in person. Some people like to do sales on the phone. It's to each their own. So a lot of it's local for the AdWords. And then with the email, yeah, it's basically going through and finding lists of people that are in a specific industry, or going through on Google and finding businesses that have a decent website, but it's not it's really not up to what it should be, and putting together that list and then putting together an email template to go out and get in touch with them.
Awesome. It sounds pretty straightforward, and it sounds like people need to first of all be aware that this is the thing they can do, and it sounds like once they're going out and getting those leads and they have those templates or whatever it is they're doing, just keep on doing more of what's working. It sounds like.
Well, there's two pieces there. The start of all marketing is when you know who, what, and why, which is who are you actually marketing to, what are you actually going to be offering them in terms of a service or whatever it is, and then why, what are their needs, what are their problems, what are the main benefits you can help them with. And so anytime I'm working with a web designer, that's the first thing we try to figure out. What's a target market you can go after, an industry you can go after, and what package of services or what can you really help them with, and what are the main things that they want. And so many times people will say, well, I tried AdWords, or I tried email, or I tried this or that, and it didn't work. But none of those marketing strategies work until you really figure out who are you targeting, what are you offering them. And so that's a piece of it. And then, yeah, it's a scaling up piece. So many people think they need to be doing blog posts, and they need to be doing Facebook, and they need to be doing this, and they need to be doing SEO, and they need to be doing all this stuff. The only thing you need is one solid way to get leads, and then you can scale up. And sometimes people try to do a million things. If they just had one thing that was working, they'd be set.
I really like that advice, and I can totally relate to that. And I think we've both seen people where they're trying to do all those things, and they're doing the blog posts, and they're doing the SEO, and they're doing the free stuff and the paid stuff. And when I look at that, I'm thinking, man, they're just moving a millimeter in a million different directions every day. If they just chose Facebook ads, or they just chose AdWords ads and just went with that and were all completely focused, then they'd actually make some progress. And so I don't want to keep you too long here, Joe, but I want to make sure that everyone knows all about you and what you have going on, because you have your web design agency, and it sounds like you have some kind of a coaching program for other web designers. So can you kind of tell us about your websites and what kind of things you have to offer?
Yeah, absolutely. If you're someone who's interested in the sort of the done for you services, where we would build a website or work with you on a online marketing or digital marketing campaign, you can go to KashurbaWebDesign.com and get information there. And then if you're a freelancer, if you're interested in starting a freelance business or growing a web design agency or digital agency, you can go to joekashurba.com, and we're working with people to help them grow those freelance and agency businesses on the joekashurba.com site.
Awesome. And just to make sure if people are listening in the car or they're walking or running or something, I want to make sure everyone knows how to spell Kashurba. That's Kashurba. So KashurbaWebDesign.com if you want the done for you side of things, and then joekashurba.com if you want if you're a freelancer and you want to know how to scale things up and not be dependent on just those one or two clients. So Kashurba, KashurbaWebDesign.com and joekashurba.com. So lots of awesome stuff today talking about, the mistakes and the do's and don'ts as far as websites and getting some leads and working with clients, and lots of cool takeaways today. So I want to thank you so much, Mr. Joe, for stopping by the show and sharing what you had to share today.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to today's program. Start from the beginning or view past episodes at robertplank.com/episodes.